Robin Harrelson with me today, and a lot of you may know Robin by watching her lead worship and being led in worship by Robin on the front line. And she's been at Pleasant Valley for a while, and her whole family is engaged in serving. So today we get to know a little bit more about her. So I prepped her just a little bit, but I don't know what she's going to say. So this is going to be good for me. So first thing we're going to do, First thing we're going to do is, why don't you just kind of start and unpack a little bit about you, Robin. Where were you born and raised? Tell us about your family, maybe how you ended up at Pleasant Valley. Just unpack who Robin is.
Okay. So I was born a few decades ago in a small town in North Dakota that at this point has about 500 people in it. So very small farming community in the southeast corner of North Dakota. Two other siblings, grew up on a farm, loved growing up on a farm, didn't love being in a small town, but loved the farm. Music was a part of my life since I can remember. Wanted to grow up, wanted to be a singer, wanted to be a professional singer. I did not get saved until I was probably in my mid-20s. So a little later, start on my Christian walk. I am married. I've been married for almost 22 years now. We have 4 beautiful children. I have twin girls who are going to be 17 in a few weeks, and I have another girl who is 15 and a boy who will be 13 this fall. One of my girls sings in the teen ministry here at Pleasant Valley, and my son, you may have seen him on stage. Sorry, I just can't help with the mom pride here. I'm proud of my kids. He plays drums occasionally on the weekends, and so that's really cool. And my husband is one of the sound/tech people. So that is kind of a little bit about me. In terms of how I came to Pleasant Valley, well, my husband and I had been more recently, before Pleasant Valley, had been attending my father-in-law's church. We had specifically moved to my in-laws' hometown to be closer to family and to attend my father-in-law's church. And when they decided that he was going to retire, we decided that if we were ever going to make any kind of a big move together as a family, now would be the time to do it. So we began researching different big metro areas to move to, because the nature of my husband's job requires that he be not terribly far from an airport, because travel up until the pandemic was a fairly regular part of his work life.
Yeah, they put important people by the airport.
Yes, that's right. I mean, yeah, I'll say it. So, so that played a part of it. So we looked at some major metro areas. I love Pleasant Valley. I love Missouri. I was gunning for Hawaii. Gotta say that was not in the cards. So my husband had friends and people that he knew down here from work, and he liked that this was farther south but still had seasons. And the farthest south I could go, I was ready for it, because I was tired of those upper Midwest winters. So we began researching towns, but then within each town, I began researching online different churches, and I began going through their vision statements or their statement of belief or what have you, and kind of being stalkerish with the staff bios of every.
You're a church stalker.
I am a church stalker. I'm not a church shopper. I'm a church stalker. And so I was even looking on their Facebook profiles going, I need to get as much information about the churches and the people so that I can, and I just prayed about this for months. And I was kind of leaning toward Pleasant Valley even before we decided Kansas City. It was between that and one other church. And when my husband decided that I think Kansas City is where we need to go, I said, well, then I'm pretty much sure that I've got the church that we're going to attend. I had listened to some of Merle's messages. My in-laws had made a couple trips around the country to different places, and they stopped in on Pleasant Valley, and they'd listened to a couple messages over a couple weekends, and they came back and they said, we are completely on board. So in one sense, we moved down here specifically to go to Pleasant Valley. I mean, it was between Pleasant Valley and another church in Charlotte, and once we decided it was Kansas City, we knew. So then we began looking for homes within 10 to 15 minutes of the church because we knew we wanted to be heavily involved family wise. So we found our church, we bought our house before we even sold our house up north and all that. And we moved down here in March of 2015 on a Tuesday, and that Saturday night was our first time in Pleasant Valley. And right away I knew we made the right decision. So
well, I knew you guys made the right decision because you guys have connections with Wisconsin and you love the Green Bay Packers. So I knew it was going to be a fit from the beginning.
I mean, God knew what he was doing. I mean, with the whole, Green Bay Packers and everything. I mean, the fact that one of the people that greeted us when we first came was wearing, was like, hey, I'm a Green Bay Packer fan. And my husband was wearing his jersey. And there was that immediate connection. And he was like, all right, we got to introduce you to people. And within a couple of minutes, we were being introduced to people and being shown around and just, oh my gosh, for a big church, it had a very warm, personal, small town feel very quickly.
That's awesome. Well, we love having your family here, and it's hard to imagine you guys been here for 5 years. It seems like you've been here longer.
5.5.
Well, and that's a good thing. It feels like you've been here longer than just 5. So that's awesome.
As opposed to feels like you've been here so long.
So long. I know. As soon as I said that, I was like, Brian, you should not have even said it.
I was low hanging fruit. I had to go for it. So.
All right. So that's the Harrelson family.
Yeah.
So again, your son Hunter is usually behind you on drums. Doug, your husband, is usually back on sound, and you've got some other kids that are helping out with students. So that's awesome that your whole family's involved. Okay, so second thing is going to be this. So can you share something that most people may not know about you? And I'm just going to let people know. I do know what Robin is going to share here, and I think it's fascinating and interesting because you actually shared this with me. I don't know. I forget what context it was, but you did share this with me before. But I think most people don't know this about you, so this is very interesting.
Okay. Hold on a second. My phone is saying low power mode. Sorry. Even the phone is like, you've talked enough, woman. So in college, I was going through a period of atheism and agnosticism and really questioning what I believed. I went down to Brazil during the latter part of college just for a semester to learn abroad, to learn a foreign language. And when I was down there, I brought a Bible with me because, as any good atheist would, I needed to know my Bible well enough to refute all the untruths in there. And one day when I was sitting down and reading it, I came to the story of the Tower of Babel. And of course, the story of the Tower of Babel is how after Noah and his family had gone off the ark, at one point God said to them, you need to go out and disperse and go to different parts of the earth and fill the earth and subdue it, and that part of that creation mandate. And of course, the people did not want to be separated, and they stuck together, and they built this tower, the Tower of Babel, basically the idea that they were going to reach heaven or the heavens through their own efforts and in their own way, and as a monument to their own greatness as well. And of course, as punishment, God went down there and confused all of their languages. Up until that point, humanity had one language, and after that point, we had many languages. Now in college, I had extensively studied Italian, Spanish, French, Portuguese, German. I'm trying to think of what else, 5 or 6 languages. And I loved languages, and I loved studying about where languages came from. And so for me, this story was the first time I'd heard any kind of explanation of how we started from one language to multiples, because in the study of language, at the point when I was in college, which was a long time ago, they had only gotten down to 3 original languages, and they were kind of far apart, and they could not find the connecting language. So this was a hook for me, going, oh my goodness, even though it seems kind of fantastical, they're offering some kind of explanation for how we went from an original language, one language, to multiple languages. And even though it seemed maybe a little preposterous to me as an unbeliever, it was enough that I just could not let it go. And that got me into the Bible, and it got me looking onto other things. And that was kind of the beginning of the end of atheism for me. And, you know, fast forward a few years later, I placed my faith in Christ. But the story of the Tower of Babel was really the biggest hook for me.
That is crazy. I've never heard of anyone else with that particular story actually beginning to get the wheels turning of like, okay, well, maybe God is real. And like, if that is real, then what other parts of the Bible are real? And maybe it's all real. And if it's all real, what does that mean? Like, that's crazy that was your starting point. Normally, we don't put Tower of Babel as the walk down the aisle and here we've got
part of the salvation story, right?
Right,
you know,
exactly.
So that just shows what it says, what God says, that his word will not return void or empty, but it will accomplish what he desires. It will accomplish the reason for which he
purpose.
And all scripture is God breathed. Even the story of the Tower of Babel is God breathed, and therefore it is powerful. Yes.
So do you still, can you speak some of those other languages, the ones that you studied?
Badly. Very poorly I can speak them. Yes.
Yeah. I just the joke in my family is I had 5 years of Spanish in high school. And when I say 5 years, they're like, oh, isn't that nice? Did you have to repeat a year in high school? Well, no. The first year was actually in middle school. I had Spanish. The bad thing is I had 5 years and I still can't speak it very well at all. So,
you know, it's like you kind of use it or lose it in a sense. It can be tricky. So,
well, I do know this, like, don't get these two Spanish words confused. Embarazoso and embarazado. One means you're embarrassed. The other one means you're pregnant. So don't even, like, I just avoid using those Spanish words ever.
So in Portuguese, there was one word that means parakeet and one word that means, I'm sorry, but lady of the night. And they sound so similar that you got to be careful. And in the Chinese language, they use tones. They use different tones, the same word, but it's a different pitch. And you can call your mother a goat if you're not careful. So languages are replete with those examples of words that you better get this one right.
Yeah, it's hard enough just to get English right. I don't think,
I can get foot and mouth in one disease. I don't need to get, foot and mouth disease in one language. I don't need to get it in multiple languages.
Well, that's awesome. That is unique that God used that story, and it was fun to hear that again. Okay, so we would love to pray for you about something. So, and again, I'm not sure when people are going to be listening to this, but is there something that we could be praying for you as a creative arts community at Pleasant Valley?
Well, absolutely. I mean, what I would ask for prayer for is something that I'll need prayer for the rest of my life. I have struggled my whole life with almost at times crippling anxiety and depression. And I was just diagnosed formally a couple of years ago, and medication has helped somewhat. But that affects my energy levels. It affects my ability to parent. It affects my ability to think clearly, and when you struggle a lot with that sort of thing, with depression, it's easy to grasp onto things to make yourself feel better, and things that cannot help you in that way. The idea of all things that God has made are good, but it's within the right context. And you can love and desire things, but it has to be the right amount. Like, I can love something inordinately and turn it into an idol. And so for me, before I was saved, I was very arrogant about my singing ability because I thought it was the only thing I had going for me, and I was a big fish in a small pond. After I became a Christian, I really struggled with this up and down of I think I'm pretty good at this, but am I being arrogant? Or I'm really good at this, or I'm really not good at this at all. And who am I kidding? And it can become this thing that Garrett Kell calls becoming, you're engaging in becoming a glory thief, where, yeah, God, I want you to receive the glory, but I wouldn't mind having a little bit of that on me as well. And that's not something that I want to do. And that's something that I'm very tempted to do, because again, I can tend to look in the wrong places for my affirmation and self-worth. And so I just continue to pray for me as I do, that I would have my eyes on the right things, that I would see myself the way God sees me, but I would also not be having my eyes focused on myself, that I would have my eyes focused on Him and on His way of seeing things, and on glorifying Him, and on thinking rightly of Him and all that He does and all that He has created, which includes me and anything that He's going to have me do. So I guess that was kind of maybe convoluted, but if that's probably the best prayer you can pray for me.
I think it's great, and I really appreciate you being open about anxiety, depression, because not only you're not alone. I've done other interviews with people already, and they're struggling with some of the same things, and it's just refreshing to hear people just be, hey, here's something that I'm working through, and especially now we're in the middle of this pandemic. Anxiety is huge, and people that weren't struggling with it before suddenly are finding themselves like, I'm having to face some of this stuff. So I appreciate you saying that. And I also love that you say you don't want to be a glory thief. That's Garrett
Kell. Got to give credit where credit's due.
Well, we need T-shirts that say that, because it's so hard to lead worship on an elevated platform and then not make it about us and somehow have people see God and responding to God through us. It's a challenge. It really is a heart challenge. So.
Absolutely, it is.
I appreciate you sharing with us, and hopefully some people learn something new. Maybe some people can come try out their Spanish on you, or their Portuguese.
Yeah. Whatever works.
Well, that's good. Well, thanks for sharing. Yeah, just nod and smile.
Absolutely.
Nod and smile.
Absolutely. That's right.
Well, thanks for sharing with us, Robin. We appreciate you.
All right, thanks for joining us today for this interview, and stay tuned for some more interviews coming up in the future.